Welcome to the Traidar, a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer and Traitors 100% superfan working in TV development. The Traidar features deep dives into every episode of English-speaking versions of The Traitors, as well as contestant interviews. And this season of the podcast is dedicated to Series 3 of The Traitors UK. We are going to dive right into the very exciting, very dramatic episode 6 of the series. And to help me do that, I have a very special guest who has an insight on this TV show like very few can claim to have. Let's meet this treacherous person. Jane Massey is a retired police officer, something she did for 25 years, and is originally from England but now lives in New Zealand, where, in 2024, she took part in season 2 of the Traitors New Zealand. Tiny spoiler alert. Jane was selected in the opening episode as a traitor. And I'm not going to spoil the season for listeners, so don't worry, folks. I know some of you have seen it, some of you won't have. Jane and I won't ruin the end of the season or what happens because it's so good. I keep recommending it to people. You must go and watch New Zealand season 2. But I will say that Jane is a major player from the game and plays a very pivotal role in this season. I will not reveal whether she won or how far she made it. I'll try and spoil no more. Jane, welcome back to the Trader. How are you over there in New Zealand?
Hi, Matthew. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Bit of a cold, but apart from that, I'm fine. Nice to speak to you again. It's summer here in New Zealand, so I shouldn't really have a cold, but I have. And it's morning here, so yeah, it's good to speak to you, and really excited to talk about this season of the UK
Yeah,
Traitors.
thank you. And we're saying sort of welcome back, and it's nice to be back because you were on the podcast before. I interviewed you after your amazing season. Is this
Yep.
UK version, is this the first one you've watched since your one? Have you seen any of like Canada or anything like
Yeah, I watch Canada. I'm a super fan. I watch
that?
Canada. Love that. And obviously the US one's starting now, so I'm going to be watching that. I'm doing a podcast on that with Annabelle and Phil from Bays on the Brink. So I watch all of them. The only ones I haven't watched are the foreign speaking ones, to be
Yeah,
honest. And at some point I might get round to them. But yeah, the UK one I love and always will watch it.
yeah, yeah. And
Close to my
Annabelle,
heart, you know.
of course.
I did apply for Traitors in the UK, but didn't even get an interview. So obviously, I had to come
Uh,
over here to get into it instead.
well, it worked in the end in a roundabout
Yeah,
way. You got there. You got
yeah,
there.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah,
how are you enjoying UK series so far? So we're going to be talking about episode 6. How's the season
yeah.
shaping up for you? Are you enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. I mean, how can you not enjoy it? I think the cast. I think they've picked a very diverse cast. I'm not sure about some of the cast, and I'm not sure about the traitor selection.
Hmm.
And the other thing really noticed that's been different in the other seasons is everybody is riding on their emotions. There's so many tears. There's so many. Certainly, we'll talk about it later, but at this round table where you thought one person was going to go, and then suddenly all emotions came into it, and everybody is being led by their emotions, which I think is maybe because the game has evolved, but it certainly hasn't happened before. So it's really interesting to watch. And certainly it wasn't like that in my season in New Zealand. So, but yeah, I mean, it's fun to watch. It's probably not fun for some of the people in there in tears every day.
Yeah, I am in agreement and very glad that you're enjoying it. And it seems like we're going to have a lot to talk about in this episode in
Yeah,
particular.
absolutely.
Before we get into the episode, listeners, I'm sure you know the drill by this point, but it is time for Jane and I to prepare our own game of deception and betrayal. This is the Traidar Traitor. The mission for Jane and I from here on in is to tell a sneaky lie to one another. The lie has to be a complete fabrication, a made-up fact. It can be big or small, it could be about the show, about ourselves, anything at all. For example, I could lie and say that the men who carry Claudia around in today's mission were actually Jedward underneath those masks. However, I couldn't lie and say that I think the mission was silly, when in reality, I thought it was a great mission. That would be a fake opinion. So we're looking for fake facts rather than fake thoughts and feelings. At the end of the episode, Jane and I will guess each other's lie. And listeners, this is your chance to be faithful and see how good you are at traitor hunting. Jane, when we played this game in your interview episode, on one hand, I felt very triumphant because you didn't detect my lie. However, I also
Uh,
failed in catching you out. So we
yeah,
we
yeah,
tricked each other. Uh,
yes. We're 1-1. So let's see how today goes.
yes, this is a rematch, the rematch of a lifetime. Our game begins now. And just
Okay.
before we get into episode 6, I'm going to raise a little toast in my glass here. Now, I'm raising this because viewers, you will may recognize these are the glasses that are used in the show, and I'm doing this on this episode because to Jane, perhaps raising a glass and having a drink might have a certain significance. We'll get there. Although I realized that the glasses in your season looks maybe a bit more like this one, so
Yes,
I'm
yes, they
going to
did. Yeah,
I'm going to transfer. But UK people and US, these are the glasses they use. I'm going to
yeah.
try not to spell, and I'll drink from this for the episode from here on in,
Okay.
as an homage to what happened in Jane's season. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Love it.
episode 6, here we go. We start off with a recap of episode 5. What did we need to know? Anna turned down recruitment, but she only told one person about it, Charlotte, right at the end of the episode. In the mission, Leanne won another shield, as did Leon. And at Round Table, there's this remarkable shift amongst, dare we say, Leon's clique, and Tyler is wrongly banished from the castle. Later that night, Lisa, after facing lots of accusations at the round table, tells the remaining players that she is an ordained Anglican priest. And at Traitor's Turret, Fosia, Anna, and Livy are the three prime murder victims the traitors are considering. So we start off with just a little bit more of the turret. We've got Mina and Linda both saying that they're strangely coping fine with all of the murdering. They're actually having a bit of fun. They think they've had a good day today. And I have to ask Jane, as a traitor, how much did you have to contend with guilt in the game, or were you good at separating like reality and a TV show?
Yeah, I think I definitely was. I'm quite good at compartmentalizing stuff, and I think with my career as well, it's
Mhm.
taught me to kind of not show my emotions too much. So I was able to, of course, I felt guilty murdering people, but in my head, I knew it was just a game,
Yeah,
and I think that's really important. And I think Mina's doing this. Mina's doing this really well. Is it is just a game. It's not
yeah,
real life. So I think as a traitor, you've got to play it like that. Otherwise, it would be a nightmare. I mean, it's hard enough as it is,
yeah,
lying all the time. But if you're actually going to be emotion, bring emotion into it, it's so hard. Yeah.
yeah. And I know lots of people are criticizing Linda online and saying, oh, she's a terrible actress, she's a terrible traitor. I'm going to defend her a little bit and say, A, she's made it this far. She's still in episode 6. She can't be that bad. And B, at least she's seems to be doing what you said, Jane. Like she is having fun. Like at least she's not really
Mm.
struggling with the emotional weight of it. So I'm going to give Linda a bit of credit there for that. So it's time for breakfast at the beginning of the episode, the main beginning of the episode. Leon's here. He feels terrible because of Tyler's banishment, of course. Leanne also just feels like she's totally thrown now. She doesn't know what to think. And she and Charlotte talk a little bit about Lisa. They're kind of baffled by Lisa's confession of being a priest. Dan arrives, similarly feels really deflated because he got Tyler so wrong last night at Round Table, and he had kind of helped rally people against Tyler. Um, then, of course, Lisa arrives. She's wearing her dog collar, and I'm sort of wondering, this is maybe a silly question. For a moment, I thought, why did she bring that if she wasn't going to tell anyone? Like, was it just for maybe for the confessionals? Maybe she
Yeah.
planned all this? Like, What are your thoughts on Lisa and the should she have chosen to tell everybody?
I think, yeah, I've been thinking about this, and actually, it could have gone one of two ways for her, definitely. The same thing with Anna, with the whole refusing the recruitment.
Mhm.
But I think because people then brought up her saying, I swear on God, or on God, I can't remember her exact words, it probably was the right thing to do. And I think actually it has worked for her. I think people, as the episode goes on, you see less and less suspicion around her, certainly for the time being. So, yeah, yeah, why not? I think it means that she can be a bit more, um, I guess, more herself. And I think so far it's worked for her. Although on the challenge, obviously, we saw the mission, sorry, we saw that she had to lie again. But yeah, think it was probably was the right time to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, Joe also says the same kind of thing here. He says everyone probably reckons she is a faithful now, but she's
Yeah.
it makes Lisa surprised that she wasn't murdered last night because she's thinking, well, if
Mm,
everybody knows I'm a faithful, I'm probably not going to be banished. So what the traitors, surely they're just going to get rid of me at some point now. So we'll see.
mm,
I mean, obviously by spoiler for the end of this episode, she's still going to be around next episode.
yeah.
So they've not gone for her yet. Um,
Mm.
at breakfast then, Fozia, Mina, Livy, and Anna are the final four who aren't there yet. And I noticed, I think this is the first time they've done it this series. It's interesting. The producers have kept a traitor until the final group because there's lots of they do this thing most seasons and lots of people are talking about it online. It always comes up.
Yeah.
How don't the faithful figure out that the last group in are always faithful? And they've
Yeah.
kind of been following that pattern so far. But actually, the Mina comes in with the final group, and and
Mm.
they arrive without Livy, so Livy's murdered. If I was being incredibly cynical and skeptical and suspicious, I would wonder, are the producers giving Mina like a little bit of a helping hand by putting her in that final group? Like they haven't done it to Linda.
No, they haven't done it to Linda. And I'm thinking back to my season. They didn't. They did it to me once, actually. So yeah, I wouldn't think they'd do that, to be honest. I think they're probably just they obviously it has been said online a lot, and they have switched things around. And I think maybe next time if Linda's still here, she might be in the last group. I can't believe they would do that. I think it's probably just a process of switching things around.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't be so cynical, Matthew.
I know. I'm usually not actually, and it's funny because I just today on one of I talk a lot about there's various traitors Facebook groups, and I like to see the funny and ridiculous things that people say on there, and there's a lot of suspicion. People saying, "Oh, I think the producers encouraged everyone to vote a particular way," and I've been
No,
commenting saying they would never get away with
no,
that. No way.
no, oh, no, 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 no. Having been, and I know it's the same, it's absolutely, it's like the people that say it's scripted, it's 100% is not. I'm not an actor, never have been, never will be. And it's literally the production don't get involved in anything at all.
Yeah.
So no, I guess people will always speculate, but no. And going back to the Mina thing, actually, I would think if the producers were going to help anyone, it would be Linda. So would have been in
Well,
the last three, maybe.
yeah.
Because at the moment, Mina doesn't really need any help, whereas Linda could do with quite a lot of help, I think. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, we'll see. But I think it was just a process of elimination, really.
Yeah, I think so too. I think if Mina and Linda stick around, it'll probably happen again at some point. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
so we realize that Livia's gone. We get a flashback to the traitors discussing her last night, and yeah, we kind of knew the reason they might get rid of her. It's because it would pile more suspicion on Freddie because Freddie and Livia have been at one another. So
or
we
Freddie.
see, yeah, I know. Poor Freddie, I know. Uh,
Mm.
although I think he's sort of doing a little bit better in this episode. We see Livy getting her letter. She seems totally unsurprised because she's convinced that Freddie's a traitor anyway. So she's like, I knew this was
Yeah.
coming. I knew
Thank
Freddie would
you,
do this.
Freddie. Yeah,
And at this
yeah.
moment, I thought, I actually can't wait to see Uncloaked for the first time ever because I'm not really a massive fan of Uncloaked, but because I want to see her face when she finds out Freddie is a faithful, and I did watch Uncloaked.
Same.
It's we and again, I'm kind of like spoiling a little bit of this episode. I'm sure if you're listening to the podcast, you have watched the whole episode, so it's fine. But Dan and Livy are both on Uncloaked, and we see the moment where they find out who the traitors are, and yeah, so Livy is forced to kind of admit, "Oh, I got this so wrong. Like I was so
Yeah.
sure it was Freddie." What? And I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but did you see this episode of Uncloaked too with Dan and
No, I
Livy?
didn't see this. I haven't seen the Uncloaked one yet. No.
Dan and Livy, before they open the sheet of paper that reveals who the traitors are, they both give their theories. They say who they think it is. Of course, one of Livy's is Freddie, but both of them
Yeah.
suggest Mina. They both
Oh,
put her in that list,
really?
which is so surprising. And Ellen did the same
Wow.
thing on her episode of Uncloaked. She
Yeah, Ellen
guessed
did. Yeah, I
Mina.
saw that. Ellen did. Yeah.
So
Wow. Dan maybe guessed Minna because she came at him at the round table, maybe. And he had already said, "Am I still here because someone's keeping me close?" Which
yeah,
I guess that makes sense. I'm surprised that Livy went for her though.
yeah. To
Yeah.
be to be
Weird.
fair, Livy did name four people. She said she thinks there's still
Oh.
four traitors. So maybe statistically,
Okay.
it was kind of
Yeah.
likely Mina might
Yeah.
be one of them. But I still was surprised that, as
Yeah.
far as we're seeing in the edit, Mina is doing so well. She's flying under the radar.
Mm.
But that's three
Yeah.
times now banished or murdered players have suggested her as a traitor. So
Yeah. Mm.
maybe something's going on. Anyway, we get back to breakfast then, and Dan thinks that, yeah, Livy was such an obvious faithful. It makes sense that she's gone. And he tells Freddie, this would be the greatest double bluff ever if you've pulled this off, because it looks like, Freddie, you're a traitor and you've just killed your prime accuser. Uh, so, Freddie's not totally, he still may have problems ahead. Uh, then, of course, comes this like really important moment in the episode. Linda starts crying and saying things like, "Oh God, she's my little girl." Everybody is looking at her. Jake notices how weird this is. Charlotte and Leanne are kind of whispering about it as well. And Jake remembers, like, this is even more weird because last night Linda had just said to him, "I'm not overtly emotional. I'm really good at keeping myself composed." So now she's doing this incredibly campy, over the top crying. Uh, and even Mina
It was.
is sort of like, Linda, you need to maybe not do all of this.
Yeah, with Linda, Linda is great entertainment. There's so much stuff about her on the internet. I think I saw the sign with her winning the. I mean, it's genius. It's absolutely genius. I love watching Linda, but it was terrible. It was terrible acting. Everybody saw it for what it was. There were no actual tears. It was, yeah. I mean, really, with if they'd been playing in my season, I think Linda would have been gone by now, 100%.
Mm,
She's very lucky that distractions happened later because at this point, I thought she was nailed on to go tonight. But I know, spoiler alert, a little bit further down, but yeah, I love Linda. I just don't think she wasn't a good, in my opinion, wasn't a good to be cast as a traitor.
yeah.
No.
I agree. I think she's such good TV. And then, yeah, again, I know a lot of people online are. I love all the hilarious videos and memes and stuff. But then some people are being like nasty, like, "Oh, she's so awful. I hate watching her. Why is she?" And I
Oh
just think,
no,
like, calm
no.
down. Like, yeah, she's not a
Yeah.
great traitor, and she's probably not going to win. But I just think it's great entertainment. And
It's
and
absolutely great entertainment. Yeah, absolutely. Why you can't be nasty. She's not a nasty person. It's like watching her flounder, and every time you think, oh, she's actually coming back up again, she does something like this. But
yeah,
it's one of the reasons we all love to watch the Traitors, isn't it? She's great
exactly.
entertainment.
Yeah, yeah. And it's what's brilliant about the edit, of course, is we cut to Linda in an interview at this moment saying, like, she thinks it's going great. She's doing a great job. Um,
Even better. Yeah.
Claudia arrives then at breakfast and reminds them of basically how poorly they're doing. She says, "You've now lost eight of your own." And of course, they've only found one traitor. And then says, "On the subject of honesty, it's nearly time for a mission." So obviously the mission's going to have something to do with, like, telling the truth, honesty, deception, whatever. Lisa then says she sort of speaks to the whole group and she says, whoever is sitting around this table and you're a traitor, you're playing a blinding game. And I guess, like you said before, maybe now she maybe feels a bit more open and she can kind of be herself. So I wonder if, yeah, she's saying this because she feels like she can say stuff like this now and it's not really going to be a problem, like when Kaz did his toast and it was a bit awkward. Um,
Yeah.
I also noticed Lisa did something without realizing it. Maybe she is receiving messages from above because she said you're playing a blinding game, and then of course in the mission they are wearing blindfolds. So
Oh God, that's a real stretch, Matthew. Well, well, word association at its best. Yeah.
mm,
Okay.
she's
Yeah.
got maybe she's
But
got a gift.
she might be. But you're right about Lisa, and I think she's thinking in her head she could be murdered at any time. So why not?
Yeah.
And it's good for her because she can come out, say what she thinks, be herself. Whether she gets things right and how long she stays, we don't know. But yeah, I think for her game, it's probably much better for her to be able to relax a bit more and not have to lie about, her job,
Mhm.
which, as I know in my season is difficult to do. It's another challenge. So yeah.
Yeah. And so we head off from breakfast. We move around the castle. There's different groups discussing things as always. We've got Freddie, Leanne, and Charlotte. They're talking about Dan, and they're saying that he's changed a bit since last night. Freddie then really goes in on Dan. He calls him the puppeteer because last night he was so, fired up against Tyler and then it all went wrong. And what's so funny about this little group is how Freddie and Leanne are now like best buds. Like she spent so long accusing him of being the traitor, and it was sort of her
Mm,
group against Freddie, and now they're like buddying around together. I thought that the opposite was going to happen. I thought after Tyler's banishment last night, it was just going to convince Leanne that she had had it wrong, like, or she was right in the first place. I thought Leanne would turn on Freddie and be like, "You got my best friend banished," and but they're
mm,
really pally now, which I'm surprised at. We get a bit of Anna. Anna is saying, "Oh, actually, this is in an interview, and it's this funny, to me, funny line that she comes out with. She's talking to the camera and she says." The traitors have been gunning for me since day one. And I have no idea what she's talking about because
no,
she hasn't been
same.
murdered. She she's only been a big target at the round table once where she got maybe three
Mm,
votes, three or four. So I don't
yeah,
know why she thinks she's been a target since day one. Um,
no.
she decides this is a good moment to sort of tell more people about the seduction. So she tells Fozia and Francesca and explains that's why nobody was killed that night. And by the way, did you notice I was the subject of a lot of accusations at the round table. The next day, no one brought me up at the round table, and this is the thing that happened in between. Um, this comes up later again, so we'll probably talk more about it at the round table. And she says she didn't tell anyone because she doesn't really explain. She says, "Oh, I thought I was going to be murdered, so I think she just was sort of scared to say anything at all." Fozia is very suspicious. She's really not sure whether she's buying any of this, and even if it's true, she doesn't understand why Anna wouldn't have told everybody straight away. We've got Dan and Francesca in the bar. Again, Dan's like really struggling. He got it so wrong last night, and he starts to wonder. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Jane. He was wondering why is he still in the game? He hasn't had any
Mm,
votes at the round table, and he does speculate for a moment. Is it because I'm really close to a traitor? If that's true, Mina's the person that I'm closest to. Or then he sort of just moves on and says, or maybe I'm just so wrong. The traitors like don't really see me as a threat.
mm,
Maybe I'm just so bad at this game and I'm not getting anything right. And he's so close to the truth, he just doesn't realize it.
mm.
We've got Alexander, Fozia, Joe, Freddie outside talking. Alexander's questioning Linda at breakfast and the way she was crying. And Joe says, yeah, he's also noticed Linda. Now, maybe this means absolutely nothing. He says Linda always stares at the table. I don't know if he means the
Yeah,
breakfast table or the round table. I think he means the round table.
I
Um,
think he means a round table. Yeah.
yeah, maybe this is a great moment to mention, for people who've not seen your season, and I was making this
Mm.
joke about the glass and the water. Maybe you could enlighten us. What am I referring to? What happens with you?
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, Matthew. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's not a real spoiler, but at the very first round table, I was Paul did chose the traitors, went out, and I had a drink of water, and immediately somebody looked onto me and thought that because I was drinking water, I must be a traitor, and that was their only reasoning. And the great thing about that was then it was produced, it was edited, and lots of memes came out about it, and oh, it was brilliant. I absolutely loved it because it showed that I'd been constantly drinking this water, which I hadn't, but. Oh, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I loved it. But and that's again, those are the sort of things like they're doing here with Linda that makes the program so great and why it's so entertaining. So yeah, that's with the whole water thing, and that probably here it will follow me forever without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, people can do the smallest thing, and people in the show are
Mm.
so great at misreading body language,
Yeah. Yeah.
most of the time, I reckon it's just meaningless, and uh,
Hmm.
occasionally well, in this case, I'm saying that in this case, Joe is right. Linda is a traitor, but I think there are so many other times that people notice these things and they're just way off mark.
Yes. Yeah, I think Linda, I know we've just quickly, I know you've already spoken about it, but Linda with the whole Claudia saying traitors, and again, maybe they've made it really obvious in the editing, but the way she turned her head, I mean, rookie error, but also, again, editing, brilliant, entertaining. Yeah,
Yeah,
we love it.
yeah,
Absolutely love it.
of course. It's time for the mission today then, and I think this is such a difference to the previous mission. I didn't really care about the mission in the previous episode with the clowns and the balloons, but this
Mm,
mission is back to one that I really enjoyed. I thought it was so revealing,
same.
and it has such a massive consequence for the end of the episode.
Massive. Yeah.
We're in the Jeeps. We're getting a little bit of chat on the way there. The main chat is still kind of about Linda at breakfast. Actually, I wanted to ask you here, Jane. Does Linda remind you? She suddenly reminded me of someone from your season. She made me think a little bit of Jackie. Like,
Well, they're the same age. They're the same age. Because actually, Jackie, I've messaged the other day about that she's 70 also, and said, "Oh, I don't share. I was the first one, so I'm the oldest sort of thing." But yeah, I know what you mean. But I think Jackie was quite had a devious side to her,
yeah, yeah.
and I think Linda doesn't really, or certainly isn't showing that side. Linda, to be honest, just looks like she hasn't got a clue what's going on. Well, she does in the nicest possible way. I love her, but she does seem like just a bit sort of, like a startled deer, and just, as you say, just really unaware of how she's playing in that interview, saying, "Oh, I think I'm doing really well," when everyone's going, "Why are you crying?" So, yeah, I know what you mean age-wise, but I think I think Jackie was a bit more um switched on than Linda was,
Yeah. And
is or
again,
appears to be anyway.
yeah. Listeners, again, I cannot recommend New Zealand season two enough, and you must go and find out who Jackie is. So we arrive at the mission. We're in the woods. We are at some sort of witchy, culty ceremony. It's a bit like the film Midsummer. And the best thing I have ever seen on this show happens. Claudia, the
Yeah.
camera like pans up. She's dressed in some sort of Yeti fur, being held aloft by two giant masked men. They look like executioners. They've got these black masks on. And she, of course, Claudia's just so good at like not at times she's so intense and serious with them, and other times she clearly just reads the
Mm.
fun in it all, and she says, "Boys, lower me," and off they go, and she says, "They're my sons." So, in fact, Claudia was on.
Oh,
She was on the Graham Norton show last
Graham
night.
Norton.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so funny, so excellent. Did you get to see it where you are?
No, I haven't seen it. I've seen the clip, and I will watch it later. But yeah, I mean, Claudia for me is just the best host. I think she's one of the reasons I applied to be on the UK one. She's just excellent. She's funny. She's got it. She's smart. I love her as a host. I think she's the perfect host. And that bit was just typical. It was great TV, wasn't it? My sons.
Yeah. She's fantastic. Everyone knows how much I love her as a host. And
Yeah,
the Graham Norton was great last night. They talked so much. Obviously, she was there to promote the Traitors, so they talked loads about it.
yeah.
Tom Hiddleston is one of the guests on the couch, and he said he watched the show, and he could have just been saying that, but then he was talking about like Lisa, and like he was
Was
naming
he?
all the players, like he's and
Oh wow,
Claudia was
cool.
like, "Oh my God, you really do watch it." It was so much fun. I
That's great.
posted on Instagram about it because it's on the story for the podcast page. Something online had said that Claudia will be on Graham Norton tonight to make a big announcement. So I immediately
Yes,
thought,
yeah.
oh,
Big surprise.
it's something
Yeah.
about the traitors. It wasn't really. It's that she's going to take over hosting the Graham Norton show for the rest of the season because he's off.
Oh,
He's doing a. They just said he's off on tour in the States. I'm assuming it's a
okay.
book like a book tour because I know he writes novels,
Oh,
but
maybe. Yeah.
um, so
Oh, okay.
that,
I thought it was going to be something about the celebrity traitors,
it's exactly what I thought. So
but
yeah,
but
my
okay. So a bit
Instagram
boring.
story was like celebrity Traitors announcement. It wasn't. It was nothing at all.
No.
Um,
Okay. All right.
but Claudia
Shame.
was still fun. Definitely go and I
Yeah.
would suggest everybody goes and watches the show. It's good fun. Anyway, back to the mission. Claudia says, "Welcome to the ceremony of truth. If you speak your truth as a reward, I'll give you £5,000 for the prize fund." And there's actually not really there's no way to fail this mission, so they're going to get £5,000. They
Yeah.
all have to wear a shield and masks. In pairs, they'll be chosen to take off their masks briefly. Whisper, choose one person to mark by putting a bucket behind them, which will then be poured over their head, like it's supposed to be like blood or something. If the targeted person chooses who marked them correctly, they'll eliminate that person, the chooser, from the game. If they're wrong, they're the one who's out, along with the shield that they have around their neck. So it's a chance to get a shield and stop others from getting a shield if you can choose carefully and you can be deceptive and mark people that you think won't sus as you. So we'll go through the game. I won't go through every single pair and who everybody chooses. I've kind of tried to pick the ones that I thought were most significant. We start with Joe and Fozia. They choose Anna, and Fozia tells Joe. I assume he hasn't heard this at this point. So she's like revealing to him, "Oh, Anna
Yes. That's
told
right.
me that
Hmm.
she was the traitors tried to recruit her last night." And Joe then just says, "Yeah, I just went with it because she was whispering so loudly."
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Yeah. That was brilliant.
Anna thinks it's Linda and gets it wrong. And then we see Anna again in her interview talking about having a target on her back. And I guess maybe at this point, I understand why she feels like this. And she's desperate for a shield. Um, I wonder if it might be a good point just to clarify why Anna's in a vulnerable position. I just wonder if maybe some people don't understand why I'm saying that. So this has happened in a few different versions of the Traitors. Somebody, the Traitors try to recruit someone, and most of the time people accept it and they become a traitor.
Yeah.
Occasionally,
Hmm.
and of course something amazing and wild happened on your season, but I don't want to spoil that. Occasionally, someone gets offered recruitment. In UK Series 1, we saw it. I don't think that's a spoiler to say that there was a player called Alex, and she was offered
Yeah.
recruitment and she turned it down. And I always say, well, that pretty much guarantees you're not going to last much longer in the game. I, I reckon it's because, well, for my thinking is that now the traitors know they're never going to be able to use you. Like if you've refused once, you're never going to become a traitor in the future, so they can't try that again.
Mm.
And you're probably going to tell everybody what happened, and probably everyone's going to believe you. Therefore, you've proved yourself as a faithful, and the traitors don't like that. I, I think
Mm.
that's I'm right, and am I missing something really obvious? I don't know.
No, I think that is right, and I think I was surprised actually she wasn't murdered that last night, instead of Livy. But yeah, I think the only thing with her is that she does wait a day to tell anyone, which could have gone against her. It doesn't appear to have gone against her, but I think there was a couple of people that said, "Well, why did you wait?" I think it was Fozia. Why did you
Yeah.
wait 2 days to say it? So that there is that danger. But yeah, you're right. She's useless to the traitors now, so you think she'd be gone fairly quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Alexander and Leanne are the next pair in the game. They choose Jake
Mm.
because they
Yeah,
think that he won't be murdered. I don't know why they think that. They sort of say like,
his
well, he
name
doesn't
hasn't
need a
come.
shield. Um,
Mm.
I sort of wanted a wee bit more there, but I'm not totally sure. Anyway, Jake gets it wrong. He guesses Linda. And it's funny because in this mission, three or four people guess Linda and it never is her.
Yeah.
It just sort of
Yeah,
indicates how suspicious they all are of her.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, I'll quickly go through a few more. Freddie's out next. Joe's out after that. Leon's out after that. Then we
Yeah.
get this really, really important moment. Dan and Leanne are paired up. Dan suggests they go for Mina because they're close to her. She would never guess it was them. They do it. And Mina's really annoyed by it because she had said, like, please don't
Mm.
pick me, like, it's going to mess up my hair. And she says, I'll never forgive who did this. Half joking, but she explicitly asks Dan and Leanne before she guesses. Like, she says, Dan, any idea? And he just says, no, it wasn't me. She asks Leanne, Leanne says, no, I didn't do it. And she guesses Francesca gets it wrong. Um, Alexander is then marked by Lisa and Leanne, and he removes his mask and he directly just asks Lisa, he says, was it
Yeah.
you? And she replies,
No.
no. And I
I
couldn't
know,
believe it.
yeah.
She is lying in the game. She said she wasn't going to
Yeah.
lie.
Yeah. Hmm.
He does, however, guess Leanne correctly. And so she's
Yeah.
out, and when you guess one half of the pair, the other Claudia's going to reveal. So Claudia reveals to everybody Lisa was the other
Yeah.
person,
Yeah,
and
I
they're
know.
they're
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
horrified.
But
It was just this
it's a
brilliant
game. It
moment.
is a game. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. It's a game, and I said that in the previous
Mm.
episode of the podcast. You know, when Lisa was saying to everybody, "I took an oath, I can't lie," I was like, "Surely you can lie for a game. I don't think that counts." So
Yeah. No. Agreed. Agreed.
Dan and Alexander are the next pair. They choose Francesca for the same reasons that Dan chose Mina. Don't think she'll guess it's us, and they're right. She gets it wrong.
Hmm.
She's out. Alex is out next. Then Alexander and Fozia mark Linda, but Linda correctly guesses Fozia because she knows that
Yep.
Fozia is sort of out to get
Yeah.
her. In the end, then,
Yep.
Charlotte, Dan, Linda are the three remaining. They all get a shield. Of course, we know Linda doesn't
Hmm.
need it. And
Hmm.
Claudia is lifted by her giant sons, says cheerio, off she goes. Um, there's a little brief moment here before we go back to the castle. Dan just quickly says to the other two, "Do you think everyone is going to be honest about who they chose?" And they both say, "Nah, no, I don't think people will tell," which ends up being really significant. So,
Hmm.
back to the castle. The other players are also talking a little bit about, now can we just talk about the game? Did we reveal who we marked? Alexander asks Dan, "Can I tell Francesca or Frankie, as they're calling her, can I tell Frankie about us?" And Dan says, "Well, you can tell her about you, but don't name
Why?
me." Do you think this is a bad idea?
Oh, absolutely do think this is what I said earlier about the whole thing is that they're really losing sight. I think the fact that this is a game,
Yeah.
it's not real life. In the way that Lisa has lied, she's not lying to God. It's not real life. She's lying in a game, within the game and within all the rules. And so, I mean, it has massive repercussions, this whole who told, who marked who. And actually, we'll talk about that. But yeah, I don't think there was any need. Had it been me and had it been on my car on my season, I don't think there would have been any issue. We'd have said no, we're not telling them, and that's it. So Alexander, I guess, started it probably because he's newer into the game and wants to be shown to be trustworthy. The real person I was surprised with was Leanne, and I expect you'll mention that in a minute.
Yeah. I'm also just gonna pour more water from one glass into the other. I know that's really weird that I'm not cutting this out of the episode, but it's because I thought this, if I try and do it surreptitiously, the microphone will pick it up and it'll sound bizarre. And if I cut that
Oh,
bit, suddenly I'll be drinking from a full glass again, and people will be looking at it
oh yeah.
going, "Have you finished
Oh,
that?"
that's true. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, Leanne pulls Mina aside and tells her, like, "I can't keep looking you in the eye line." And she confesses not only that she marked Mina, but she lands Dan right in it and said it was me and Dan,
No.
which is
Yeah.
perfect for Mina.
Mm.
She starts crying, and I mean, I can't quite figure out, like, is she really crying because they're her friends and they lied to her, or is she just using this? Is she just an amazing actress? I think it's maybe a bit of both.
I think going back to Leanne, I really like Leanne. I think I was hoping from the start she'd be a traitor, and I'm still hoping she'll be recruited. But I think that was a mistake, a big mistake, because it dropped down in it, like you say. She didn't need to tell Mina. And with Mina, I think she was quite genuine actually in her tears. I think she felt again, she's in that game, emotions are high, and I think she did feel betrayed.
Hmm.
And that goes on again at the round table, which is why nobody should have said anything.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
Mina
I was screaming at
then,
the said, "Don't say anything, Leanne! Shut up! Shut up!"
yeah, yeah.
Dragging her off into the other room. Oh God.
Yeah. And the problem is, as soon as one person does it, it just creates this domino effect that everyone else feels, well,
Mm,
I'll have to do it now, and if I don't, I look
yeah,
bad. And so I
yeah.
guess Leanne's kind of started, Alexander kind of started it as well. If everyone just
Mm.
didn't tell, or they collectively agreed, let's just all tell right now. But yeah, it's tricky.
And sorry, and the other thing I was going to say, Matthew, is within that game, it's there are other situations in other games where you can get shields. You could proactively get shields.
Hmm.
It's no different by marking people. You have to mark somebody. It's going to work out that people are going to get shields, and it's kind of game of chance because you don't know. You've all got blindfolds on, so don't take it so seriously and don't take it to heart because nobody's going home, is it? It's just a couple of shields at the end
Yeah,
of the day. I know that's easy for me to say, sat here watching it, but I just think everyone got a bit carried away with it.
yeah. You're so right. That mission wasn't about traitors and faithful, really.
Oh,
It was about trying to get a shield. And the best way to do that is mark somebody that you think isn't going to pick you. It's
yeah.
not it isn't personal. It's not really about who you don't trust or who you don't like or who you think's a traitor. It's just
Mm.
who's not going to think it was me. Simple as that.
And that's why Dan and Leanne did it. And to be honest, in my season, I think someone like Ben would have probably done it to me, and I would have gone, "Yeah, good on you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mina then sort of she's upset, but I think she very also quickly realizes this is an opportunity. And she says to Leanne, right, don't tell Dan you've told me. I'm going to wait things out and see if he'll come to me on his own. If he doesn't, I've lost all
Mm.
trust in him. And again, I think she probably half means that and half is like amping it up to suit her game. And it works
Mm.
really well.
Yeah, good for her. Absolutely, good for her.
Yeah. She then goes to the bar area. She talks in front of Dan about what happened, and he just doesn't say
Yeah.
anything. He doesn't confess. Uh, We've got Joe
Hmm.
and Freddie talking about Linda again, and they reckon that they're probably going to go for her tonight at the round table. So we head into the round table. On our way in, we've got our voiceovers, our confessionals. Jake is going full force, he says, with Linda. He's convinced she's a traitor. Mina says something quite important, I think. And again, I'll definitely come back to this towards the end of the episode. Mina says she knows Linda's at risk, and she will happily throw Dan under the bus to save Linda. Um, I'll talk later about whether or not Mina should just be giving up on Linda at this point, but we'll circle back to that. Anna is going to tell everyone her secret tonight at the round table.
Mm.
What do you think of that? Like, is this the right place or time to tell everybody?
I've already said I think she should have told people straight away or not at all. However, the reasoning that she gave actually was valid because the four names that she then put out, the people that had targeted her, and then she was saved the following night, actually had quite a bearing. And obviously, Linda was in that group,
Hmm.
had quite a bearing. Oh, so was Dan, unfortunately. So she got away with it, and also
Mm.
made people think. So yeah, I think it was it definitely could have backfired on her, but I think in this instance, it made other people think and actually think, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good point. So, yeah, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, you're right. It did actually affect the outcome of the banishment. I think I'm with
Mm,
you that you either tell everybody straight away, or which I probably wouldn't want to do because I don't want to make myself a target for the traitors. I would try and keep it a secret as long as possible, and
mm,
if I ended
mm.
up making it to the end, then maybe you tell somebody you think you can trust. Or I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh,
no,
Claudia then speaks to them. The prize fund is £34,500 and says, but today you might have gained something even more valuable than that. Information about your fellow players. And this is like Claudia messing with them a bit because actually I
yeah,
think they've
yeah,
not really learned anything about their fellow players that's going to help them,
No.
and it doesn't. But she's planting that in their minds to make them go, oh, we must talk about what happened at the mission today. Uh, Anna
Yep.
does begin then, and she tells them she's got real evidence, as she calls it, I guess so, and tells them 2 nights ago, my name was brought up by loads of people. The next night, I wasn't brought up at all. What happened in between was I got a
Mm.
letter from the traitors. They tried to recruit me. She explains why she didn't accept. And then Mina, again, really cleverly, I think, uses this moment to step in and make herself look faithful. So she says, well, who brought up your name? And those people were Dan, Alex, Lisa, and Linda. And Mina asks those
Mm.
four, was there any reason you changed your mind? Which I just think is so brilliant of her to put that out there, put them
Mm.
on the spot.
Mm.
Alex sort of
Mm-hmm.
briefly defends himself, but we don't get much more defense from them all because Jake jumps in to come for Linda, as he is obviously going to do.
Mm.
Asks her about her emotional display at breakfast. She talks about being really close to Livy and says it was genuine. No one seems to be believing it really. And other people were like kind of, I think other people thought they were close to Livy as well, but they didn't react like that. Um,
Mm.
and Charlotte says also, Linda, your voting pattern's been quite strange. Linda talks a little bit about being quiet at the round table, and that like that's where she just listens and absorbs everything, and that's where she makes her decision. There's then I've said this like 2 or 3 times now, but I think an incredibly pivotal moment here. I think this is the moment at the round table that changes everything because Francesca asks Linda, "Did you mark me today?" And Linda, and she's actually telling the truth this time, but in dramatic Linda fashion, says, "Absolutely not."
No. Yeah. Absolutely not. Yeah.
She then asked Dan, "Did you mark me today?" And he lies, of course, he denies it. And I think this is the moment that like shifts the weight
Mm.
towards Dan and the banishment, basically, because Dan is lying here and Linda is telling the truth. What they're lying about is, again, we've covered it, it's
Yeah.
inconsequential, but
Mm-hmm.
the other players just see it as someone just told a lie right to us. Oh my goodness, we can't trust him. So, although actually, apart from Francesca, she doesn't then vote for Dan, which is interesting.
No. No.
Um,
No.
So, yeah, Francesca, she's going on and on about being marked because she knows someone's lying, and Dan's really defensive at first. Like he's not. It looks like he has not given in. He's not going to admit it was him no matter what.
Mm.
And
Should have stayed there.
yeah, well, yeah, he could have just kept it up all night.
Should have done.
Um, and he he can't understand. Yeah, like why he says, "Why, Francesca? Why are you only asking me and Linda?" And actually, I don't understand the answer to that either. He says like there's other people it could have been. But yeah, so I
Mm.
don't know why she only focuses on them. Maybe there's something that's been cut out that we don't see.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, Francesca explains, well, Alexander's already told me he was one of the pair.
Mm.
And she says, I'm giving you the opportunity to tell the truth. Linda keeps going, I am absolutely not lying. She's not. And then
No.
everyone jumps in and they're all talking over one another. It gets kind of
Mm.
nuts. Eventually,
Mm.
Dan puts his hand up and he admits it, and it just all falls apart
No.
from there.
That moment. That
Yeah,
moment, he was gone. Yeah.
yeah. Everyone is then just sort of like, "Why
Can
did
I
you
just say in that
lie?"
yeah, sorry.
No,
I was
no,
just
no.
saying, can I just say in that I really like Dan, really liked him. I know he's a bit of a Marmite character or casting, but I really liked him. He was playing his own game, but also he was very analytical and kept emotion out of it, which actually meant he was playing quite a good game. But he should have either said yes straight away, it was me, or no, and stuck to it. The minute he then said, "Oh, okay, it was me," I knew he was going to go, and over something like you say. So Freddie was really upset about. Sorry, not Freddie. Frankie was really
Francesca.
upset
Yeah,
about it again. But why? I still don't get why she was so upset. It just, yeah, it just. But that was his downfall. Yeah,
yeah,
but I do really like Dan, so I'm sad to see him go.
yeah. I agree on both of those things. I also don't understand why Francesca was so bothered about it, and I also really liked Dan. I thought he was a
Mm,
great character to watch. He was really different
yeah.
from most of the other players. He's smart. I
Hmm.
do have some thoughts at the end about sort of his downfall, not just in this this moment, but maybe the whole series. I've got thoughts on that that I'll come to.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay.
Dan calls them all self-righteous, which I think is a bit of a mistake. Um, and Francesca's like, if you're a faithful, this is your moment. It doesn't look great. You've betrayed my trust. I looked you in the eye. You lied. I mean, I guess maybe what she's saying is, if you were so good at lying about that so convincingly, does that mean you could have been lying about everything else? And I don't think that is what she means, but um, me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it could have been, I guess, but yeah.
Mina then steps in, and again she gets what seems like genuinely upset, and she explains that she
Mm.
she also knows that Dan's lied to her, and she's like, "I know that it was you in the mission as well, and I asked you, and you lied." Um, Dan, I think, just keeps digging his own grave, and he says,
Mm. Yeah.
like, now that he's admitted it, he could just grovel, but he does it and apologize, or he just does it. He just says, "I'll be as cutthroat and competitive as I can be to get a shield."
Mm.
He's annoyed that everyone left the mission saying that they didn't think they were going to tell one another, but now everybody's so angry about it. And Mina just tells him she cannot trust him now. Somebody, I'm
Mm.
not sure who it is, somebody asks Dan, well, who do you suspect? And he's a bit non-committal about it. He says, well, I got Tyler so wrong yesterday, so I don't really know what to think now. I'm going to take a back seat.
Mm.
And again, he says this thing that is so close to the truth. He says, maybe the only thing I can think is that someone is keeping me safe. Maybe I'm really close to a traitor. He doesn't name Mina though. That's the thing.
No.
And
No.
everyone just seems to be done at that point. The final thing is Joe, and he just sort of speaks up and goes, "Well, I've got nothing to say for a change,"
Yeah.
and everyone laughs.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, he says, "Lisa, can you ask God for some guidance? We could really do with some help." And
Mm. Yeah.
I've been a little bit harsh on Joe and on the podcast, but I actually this made me laugh, and I thought, you know what? Maybe that's pretty. He was bringing a bit of lightness and levity to the table in an
Yeah.
incredibly awkward
Sure. Yeah.
moment. So actually,
Yeah.
that warmed me to
Yeah.
Joe there.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Time for the votes then. Here we go. Charlotte begins and she votes for Linda, as does Jake, which is not a surprise. Anna goes for Alex, which is a little bit unexpected, but I guess they're picking him because he was one of the people that had voted for Anna and then didn't the next day.
Mm.
Alexander is next and goes for Linda. So you might think at this point, oh right, Linda's had it. She's got three votes, and then it just all falls apart after this.
Edited. Edited. As I know, it always starts off. You think it's going to be, and then I knew it wasn't going to be Linda.
Yeah.
But yeah, carry on.
Mina's next and then goes for Dan. So that's quite
Mm.
significant, I think. If she's going for him, other people are going for him. So Leanne sits beside Mina. She votes for him too. So does Leon. Dan then votes for Leanne, and which I thought was really a bad decision. And Leanne gets really annoyed about it. She's like, "That's fine. You should have brought it to the table." And Dan just goes, "Well, I didn't." And I
Yeah.
sort
Well, I didn't. Yeah, that was brilliant. I love that typical Dan. Well, I didn't. So sod off.
like I sort of thought, surely Dan realized he was going to get some votes, and if he was going to have any chance of saving himself, he should just vote for Linda. He also
Yeah.
talked more
Same.
about this on Traitors Uncloaked. They were asking him like, why did you never suspect Linda? And he said that the reason that he never suspected Linda is A, because he said he sits beside her at the table, so they kind of had a little bit of a friendship and a closeness, and they were buddies. And because way back, I think in the first round table or maybe the second one, when Armani was still around, and Armani suggested that one of the traitors was one of the older women, and then they find out Armani's a traitor. Dan said from that moment on, he just thought, well, Armani would never have landed another one of the older women
Oh,
in it like
okay.
that. So he said that had
Right.
convinced him ever since that moment that Linda wasn't a traitor,
Mm.
which
Okay.
which is I guess I can see why he thinks that, but that's just Armani being
Yeah.
like a kind of chaotic traitor.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Linda's next. And again, she does this weird vote. She votes for Fozia and she just says, I'm just going with my gut and I'm not listening to anyone. And I thought, why didn't you just go with Dan? Like,
I'm
if
in
you're
Linda Land.
Like if she's going to save,
I
and
love it in here.
it's fine. She doesn't need saved because everyone votes for Dan. Not everyone, most of them vote
Yeah,
for Dan. But you would have thought if she had
I
wanted to save
know.
herself, just pick Dan, just get the numbers up
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, but and Matthew, that's what I mean about her playing. She's like just in her own little world. It's like she doesn't really know what she's playing because absolutely that is the straight gun. Go for Dan, and she goes for Fozia out of nowhere
Yeah.
with no real reasoning other than I'm going to go with my gut. So yeah, this is what I mean about her being. It's like she's never watched the show, but she must have done, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to sort of play devil's advocate and think, well, would it have been a smart idea to go for Fozia? I thought maybe I'm giving Linda maybe way too much credit now. Maybe she
Yeah, I
thought
think you are.
maybe she thought Dan's gonna go anyway, whether I vote for him or not. Maybe she felt confident in that
Mm.
and thought, so I'm not gonna go with the crowd. I'll go for Fozia because maybe that looks more believable that I'm just like a clueless faithful and I just
Mm.
don't know what I'm doing. And later on, I
Oh,
think
maybe. Yeah,
Fozia's.
maybe. Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay. Let's go with that.
Uh, Francesca then goes for Alex as well. And she says, Dan, yeah, she doesn't vote for Dan. And she says, Dan, if you're lying to me, I've
Mm.
trusted you up to today. If you're playing this weird game, it's a bad idea. Joe goes for Linda. Claudia tots up the scores. It's pretty close between Linda and Dan. Linda's got four. Dan is three. Alex is two. Interesting. Fozie and Leanne have one each. And then the next four people just all pile on Dan. Fozia goes Dan. I thought it was interesting she didn't go for Linda because she's been so
Yeah,
suspicious of her.
yeah, 100%. I was going to say that. That's the one thing on all the votes. Fozia strikes me as being a very forthright person. She had so much sass on Linda, and this is what I mean about the whole. She was going in there voting for Linda. Chaos ensues. They all get ridiculously emotional and start shouting accusations, and then she changes her vote to Dan.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't. I guess she was just swayed by it all, and thinks she'll come
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Linda next
yeah,
time. I don't know. Like, well, I
yeah,
think she
maybe.
does
Yeah.
say. Is it her that says, "Oh, I think two traitors have been named." So I think
Yes, she
maybe
does.
she's
Yeah.
implying Linda still think
Ah,
it's
okay.
you, but I'm
Yeah.
going to
Good
go for
point.
Dan anyway.
True.
Um,
Yeah. Good point.
Lisa votes next for Dan. And at this, there's only two people left. The next two would have to be for Linda for her to go,
Mm.
as opposed to Dan. But it doesn't happen. Freddie goes for Dan. Alex goes for Dan. Dan is he's he's resigned to his fate, so he's just sort of smiling and enjoying the game of it all now. Which also reminded me of a player from your season. It made me think a little bit of Mark.
Who on earth? Oh, really? What gives you that idea? Yeah. Oh, he's nowhere near as smiley and grinny as Mark, but yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Again, listeners, you need to watch this season. Mark, another great piece of casting. Uh,
Yeah, very much so.
Dan then has to stand up. Of course, he'd been banished. He says, just remember, we've only known each other for a couple of weeks. Don't take anything personally. It's just a game. And then he plays with them a bit. He says, I am. And he puts on this like taunting, sort of cheeky face. And he builds
Mm,
it up. I am a faithful. And of course, off he goes. They're devastated, especially
mm,
Francesca. Like, she's sort of like, oh, I knew it. And he just ruined this for himself. And it's everyone's gutted. They've got
mm,
it wrong again. Jake,
mm.
we get a little
Jake,
interview
yeah.
clip from him saying, I never suspected Dan.
Hmm.
And he's like, if he wasn't so foolish tonight, Linda would have gone. Why isn't everyone
Yeah.
just going for Linda? Like I keep telling them.
Yeah.
Um, Mina, we see her in an interview as well, and this is the thing I said I would come back to, so I'll come back to it now. She says, Linda needs to be on her A game. I can't be seen to be protecting a traitor. So it seems like Mina's still protecting Linda. And I'm wondering, like, why, if I was Mina, maybe at this point I would be thinking, right, I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna go with the crowd and vote her out now. It seems like Mina's still trying to do her best to keep like the sisterhood. Do you think she should just turn on Linda now? Is it worth keeping Linda around?
I think Mina's playing the way that I did as well, is that she will try and protect her as long as she can without bringing suspicion on herself.
Hmm.
And I think that's great. I think that's the way, personally, well, I played it and how I would want others to play it. And I think in this round table, Dan was perfect. So she could flip without sort of everybody else flipped as well, without showing her to be sticking her head up above the parapet with that. I do think in the next episode is going to be really interesting because if there's still heat on Linda, which I think there will be, I think she will step away from defending her, and I think she'll have to for her own game. I
Hmm.
don't think she'll deliberately throw her under the bus, but I think she will think of herself, rightly so, and I do think that she'll not give up on her as such, but definitely not defend her like she has been doing. But good on
Yeah.
her for trying to defend her. That's great, and that's why I think Mina's playing an excellent game and is is doing really well so far.
Hmm. Yeah, I can see that happening. Mina's really good at reading the room and weighing all the
Mm,
options up and when the time is right at the round table, doing the thing that needs to be done. So yeah, I can see the
mm,
same thing. It's
mm.
time for everybody to leave the round table, have their sort of debrief. Linda is in inverted commas losing it in front of Francesca. She's like, I'm so exhausted. I'm fed up. No one came to
Shout at
me. And
me,
um,
Francesca.
and I'm sure she is bothered because she just about got banished, but she's going way over the top. And Francesca's, I think, almost like, well,
Oh,
don't come at me. Um,
she did. She said, "Don't shout at me, Linda." I think I'll rewind that and watch that about three times because I just thought it was just brilliant from Linda. Oh, she's just quality.
Yeah, and the thing is, Francesca's meanwhile upset about Dan, and like Linda's not really paying attention to that. I think they do have a hug, and
Yeah,
then other people
yeah.
come and comfort Francesca, uh, and then we cut to Claudia, and so I assume okay, it's just the little bit where Claudia says, "Oh no, off to Traitor's turret," but no,
Mm,
something else is happening. It's a secret mission. Um,
yeah,
so there's no meeting in the turret tonight. The Linda and Mina arrive to the room where they'd received these letters. And I thought, oh, it's gonna be something we've seen before. It's gonna be like the poison chalice murder or the
yeah. That's what I
deadly
thought. Yeah,
kiss.
yeah,
But I think it's even better than that. So the traitors need to choose four players to potentially be murdered in a deadly game. They have to find a peacock quill in the library, write the names on a painting in the bar. Um, the next 5 minutes, if I've not actually said it already. This is my favorite episode so far. I thought it was so good, just absolute brilliant TV. It's
hmm
any worries I had about this season, maybe not living up to other ones. I just loved watching this. I had so much fun. The the I get so stressed watching it. I get so caught up in it.
I
Lynn,
know. Yeah,
my heart was
finding that
racing.
quill. I
Yes.
no, yeah, no, same.
They
Yeah,
that Linda and Mina are trying to get to the library alone. They don't want to look suspicious. Linda can't find the quill. They kind of have to quickly discuss who they might murder, but we don't see
no,
much of that. All they say is they're not going to go for
no.
Jake. Too obvious.
Yeah,
Charlotte's got a shield. Of course, Linda has the
yeah,
other shield, and Dan had the third, but he's gone.
yeah.
Even when they find the quill, Linda's got to shove it up her jumper. They've got to sneak into the bar. They've got to avoid people the whole time. I was so stressed watching this. I mean, I love it and have intense anxiety from watching
So
it.
stressed.
Um,
Oh
even
dear.
when they get to the bar, Linda's like what seems like painstakingly writing the names on the page, like just scribble them quickly.
I I know. I'm laughing because I was thinking exactly the same. It seems like she's taking an age to write the
I
names.
know.
And
I mean,
Photius. Oh God, yeah.
logically, I sort of know, right? They're probably very. There's a lot of fake editing going on here. I'm sure probably what was going
Yeah,
on is that they knew everybody was actually miles away and they had plenty of time, and they're just
yeah,
cutting
probably,
in
but
Fozia walking around, almost catching them. I'm sure that didn't happen, but in the moment, I thought, oh my God, what if Fozia walks in? I was sure she was going to
I
walk in
know,
and see Linda,
I know.
but with that quill poised at that painting, can you imagine? Um,
Oh, I know. Same, same. Yeah,
Even
brilliant, brilliant
Mina,
editing.
it's so good, so good. Mina, I think, just ditches Linda. She's just like, I'm not
She
hanging about for you to
does.
get caught. She just goes off. Um,
She does. She does. Oh, oh, no, she said, "I'll cough if someone," and then she kind of just wanders off. She just left alone.
quite right. She's like, I'm
Oh,
out. I've done my
brilliant.
bit.
Yeah.
If one of us is
Brilliant.
getting caught, it's
Oh,
not me. Linda finally
genius TV.
finishes. She takes the quill back. It's midnight. We're zooming in on the painting as everyone's going off to bed, and we find out who's
Oh,
been
dear.
written. The four will be Leon, Alexander, Fosia, and Anna. And I'm
Yeah.
already wondering, will the players who survive get to, will the painting still be there the next day? Are they going to see the names
Yeah.
written? Is someone going to draw their
Don't know.
attention to it? Someone online actually made this comment that uh, the way Linda writes Fosia's name, she writes the
Yeah, I
Z
saw that.
in a really funny way.
Yeah.
Will someone
Mm.
recognize that Linda writes a Z like that on her board? Like, can you imagine? That would be amazing if that's how she got rumbled.
I mean, yeah, can't see it, but I mean, they probably won't even notice it, or it'll get taken down. Who knows? We'll
Yeah,
find
yeah.
out, I guess.
I would love if it was just left because I actually think if they take the painting down, that's more conspicuous. Someone will go, "Hey, there was a painting there."
Mm.
I would love if they just
Yeah.
left it there. Claudia doesn't mention it, and at some point, someone just, even if it's like 3 episodes from
Looks at
now,
it.
someone goes, "Wait a
Yeah,
minute."
that's true.
I would love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be
So
good.
they're all heading off, but the four victims and their jeeps head off in some other direction, which they recognize. They know that something's not right. Anna
Mm.
says, I knew there was going to be something, which made me laugh. I thought,
Mm.
no, you didn't.
Mm.
They they arrive in this graveyard at this old ruin. Claudia's here in the darkness. She has the most intense eye makeup I have ever seen in my life. These big panda eyes. It's brilliant. It's just
Yeah.
hilarious.
Hmm.
And she tells them they'll be playing a death match. They have to sit around this little table, and at the end of this death match, one of them will be murdered from the game. It's they're going to play a card game. It's like we we play a game called Scabby Queen. Is this like have you heard of this?
No,
I don't know
no.
I don't know if this
Scabby
is
Queen.
Scabby Queen.
Sounds interesting.
I don't know if this is a Scottish game or just a My Family game. I don't think it's just a My Family game. It may be like a Scottish thing. It's very
Yeah,
similar.
maybe.
Really simple, bunch of cards, swap cards. There's one queen in the pack, and you don't want to be the person
Okay.
with the one scabby queen at the end. I
Well,
guess,
Scabby Queen, hence the
yeah,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Usually it's the Queen of Spades. This game's the opposite. You don't want to be the one person. You want to be the person left with a good card, not a bad card. So,
Okay.
they have two cards each. It's pretty simple.
Hmm.
One card at the table is a life card. The others are death cards. Everyone gets to do one swap until they go round all four of them, or three of them, or two of them. Whoever ends the round with the life card escapes the table. Off they go. I love it. I was still found this so intense to watch, and I thought it was amazing that you don't always need the big Viking boat and the big ring of fire and the creepy clown maze. Just four people sitting at a table in the dark is like the most intense thing for me that's happened so far. I just thought that was so powerful. So we start the game. Let's go through round one. Fosia begins. She has the life card. She doesn't begin, sorry. She's the first person to have the life card. Anna volunteers to begin. She picks Fosia and picks the life card, like like by complete chance. And then the
Yeah.
others do one swap each. Fosia chooses not to swap with Anna because she thinks it'll look too obvious if I just ask for her one back.
Yeah.
However, I sort of tried to think through this. That was her only chance to win, though. So I think she actually should have just done it, even though it looked obvious, because if no one else, she'll have no other chance to get the life card back after this, because
Mm.
even if someone picked it off
True,
Anna,
yeah.
they're not then knowingly going to swap it with Fosia. So I think the only chance she had to
Mm.
stay in the round was to just pick Anna and just try and get it back. And
Yeah.
even if the two guys
Mm.
thought that's weird, they might still have picked the wrong card from Fosia. She could have gotten away with it. Anyway, but I get that under that pressure, you probably wouldn't think through statistically what should like
Oh, it's a
you'd be all
split
over the
second
place.
thing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
The round goes on then. Anna wins. She leaves the table. Off she goes. Round two, Leon has the life card to begin with, and he volunteers to go first. He swaps with Fosia. Obviously, he's still got the card, the life card. Fosia then chooses to swap right back, and she picks the life card. The whole time, Alexander's face is brilliant. He just looks so on edge. It's probably just because he's freezing because it's Scotland, but he just has the best reactions to all. I love it. And he then swaps with Fozia and gets the life card from her, so he has survived. He leaves. Leon's got his head in his hands. It's down to Leon and Fozia. Um, and we see the traitors. They're making their way through the darkness with the lanterns, and the episode ends here.
Mm.
So, did you love this episode as much as I did?
I did, and I just going back on that mission. I would say the mission itself was just too. I loved it. I like you, four people at a table, really low budget, excellent. Um, None of them should ever take up poker, that's for sure, because the faces were hilarious. I mean, Alexander just looking to left to right was brilliant, but Leon and I mean, he gave it away. So and Fozia, I mean, yeah, poker faces, forget it. But the other thing was though, and I know it's been talked about online, but it's actually for me as well. Is surely whoever survives this, I guess we'll have to wait till next episode. It was obvious that there'd be no traitors in there because it's a chance game and a traitor can't be murdered.
Yeah.
So unless they're going, I know there's been lots of theories, but to me that gave out, well, they're obviously full faithfuls.
I was going to ask about the exact same thing because this is what
Mm,
was driving me mad in
yeah.
a good way. After the episode, I couldn't stop thinking, yeah, the same thing. I thought, wait a minute. And Claudia
Mm.
said there could be a traitor here.
And she said, yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I kept thinking, well, how can there be? Because what if that traitor ends up with that being the loser of the game? Like, how are they going to do that? However, there's a solution that's I can't
Mm,
take credit for. Somebody online on Facebook explained a theory, and I thought, oh, that is probably exactly what would happen. And I think what would happen is if there's a traitor in the game and they get the life card, that's fine. They're saved. They can pretend they're faithful. If a traitor
yeah.
is one of the last two, like if Leon or Fozia
Yeah.
was a traitor, because
Hmm.
Anna's left and gone back in the Jeep, and Alexander's gone back, and they're not going to know the outcome of the game. I think what would happen
No.
is that Claudia would just step in then, and they wouldn't play the last round, and she would just tell
Right.
the faithful,
You're murdered.
"You're
Okay. Yeah.
murdered, and here's why he's a traitor or she's a traitor." So I think that's the way around
Okay.
it. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and and I saw the same thing, and that does make sense. I think it was just, yeah, I was thinking about it afterwards and thinking, oh, but yeah, I guess that would make sense. But anyway, the mission itself, I loved. Yeah, I thought it was great. Is it going to be Leon or Fozia? I don't really mind, to be honest. I don't. I mean, they're not. Neither of them are my favourites. Put it that
mm,
way. So I think Leon's been quite under the radar so far.
mhm.
They haven't shown much of him. Fozia is very direct, so it might be good to keep in the game because I think she could have some important gameplays.
Mhm.
But we'll see the next episode. But it was an amazing episode. Yeah, absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
Absolutely best one so far.
agreed. Best
Yeah, I
one.
got to do the podcast on the best
Yes,
episode.
you got such a
Yay.
great episode. I
Exactly, yeah.
For my prediction, I guess like it's difficult to predict which one of them is it going to be because it's just chance. We're
Mm.
not really basing this
Yeah.
on what the traitors are
Mm.
thinking. I'm gonna uh, I'm gonna predict Leon's gonna go purely based on the edit. I think he was getting lots of shots of him looking exasperated and his head in his hands and being really stressed. And because, like you
Mm.
said, he's been so quiet in the game, like he's not had a lot of airtime. Maybe that's
No.
because he's not sticking around for much longer. And I would
Yeah.
like you, Fozie, I think is more interesting to watch, so it would be fun for her to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Um,
Same. Yeah.
as for the next banishment, I'm just going to go with the obvious again. I predicted it last time and I was wrong. I'm just going to stick with Linda and say maybe next time that's it. Her time's up. Who do you think might go next?
Yeah. I mean, I have to say Linda because but who knows? I mean, I would say that it will be 100% Linda until the round table
Mm,
or mission. And if they all go that let their emotions go wild again, then it could be somebody else. But sitting here now, I would 100% say Linda, and I think it should be Linda. I think her time is probably done. However, she's brilliant, and I just think she's been amazing for the wrong reasons. She's not been an amazing traitor. She's just been amazing to watch. So
yeah,
good on
yeah,
her. Yeah.
yeah. Agreed. And
And I agree. I'd like to see Fozia come back.
yeah. I also can't wait to see the reveal, of who ends up being the loser of the game, facing the traitors and finding out who they are. I
Mm,
think it's going to be great TV. Um,
yeah.
do you have any other sort of overall thoughts on the episode? I've got one final thing I'm going to mention. Any other thoughts before we sort of move on?
I'm just going to say the only other thing I'd say, Freddie, I mentioned him earlier. I feel really
Mm.
sorry for Freddie. I want to put that. I know he's an intelligent lad. He's only 20, and he's kind of reminded me a bit of like Noel was in my season.
Yeah, yeah,
That people have been ganging up against him. I'm glad he's still there, and I hope that the heat is taken off him now because I think he's done all he can, and I think he's done really well for a young lad. I think he's he's stuck up for himself well, and yeah, I want him to do well. So yeah, that's the other thing I'd say.
yeah. I had a final thought. Well, I mentioned it earlier. I said I'll come back to this, so I'm coming back to it now. It's about Dan. So I, like you, really like Dan. Seems like a really cool guy, very clever, very
Mm,
interesting. I enjoyed watching him on screen. My final thoughts, and up until this point on the podcast, I've been sort of praising him and saying he's got the right idea because he keeps saying this isn't a team game, it's a selfish game. You've got to look out for number one.
mm.
Get to the, you can't win without getting to the end. A few episodes back, remember he had this big argument with Jake. It was after the Viking boat, the rowing mission,
Yes,
and Jake was
yes,
so
that's right.
mad.
Yeah.
He was like, "I sacrificed
Mm,
myself, and then no one else did. You all are selfish." And Dan was just like, "Well, no one told you to play like a lovely team member. We should
yeah.
just be selfish. I'm not going to apologize for being selfish." And I was very defensive of Dan for this. However,
Mm,
what I would say now is that I think Dan's downfall is that he shouldn't have been telling the others that that's how he was playing the game. So I think he couldn't
yeah.
see why what he was doing was bothering them so much, even if he was right. So I think you should play the game for yourself and do what you need to do to get to the end at everybody else's expense. But I don't think you should tell
Mm.
everybody you're doing that because most of the other players don't see the game like that. So,
No, no,
David,
I agree.
yeah, David Bloomberg, who usually, regularly
Yeah,
co-hosts with me, and he was on the last episode.
yeah,
David would say that Dan has forgotten the social game. He gets the strategy, but not the social aspect. I think he failed to recognize why other
mm,
people would be so bothered about him repeatedly saying,
yeah.
"I don't care about being selfish. I'm just going to play it selfishly." Um, Rightly or
But
wrongly.
as he said, he's autistic. He has, I don't know where he is on the spectrum, but so probably in his mind, the social game isn't important. He's more
Mhm.
analytical. He's more to the point, that's what I really loved about him actually. But he should have kept that. He didn't have to play the social game massively, but he should have kept it to himself. Don't say I'm playing my own game. Yeah, that was his downfall, which is really sad because
Yeah.
I really wanted him to do well. But yeah, he seems like a really great bloke, Dan.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've got a couple of emails that I thought maybe we could have a quick chat about. One is from Matt. So Matt runs the I Analyze the Traitors account on Instagram that I recommend following. It's full. Matt's really good at sort of
Hmm.
going back over other seasons and building up stats and likelihoods of things, and he knows all sorts of like records and achievements from different seasons. That Instagram page is I underscore analyze, spelled with a Z or a Z if you're American, underscore the underscore traitors. I analyze the traitors. Matt sent an email. Just sort of, it's not really a question. It's just something he's pointing out about the previous episode when Livy and Freddie were going at one another. He says, the exchange between Livy and Freddie is another example of these emotional, dramatic moments that traitors never have with other traitors outside of the round table or the conclave or the turret. If a player sees these exchanges happening, surely one or both of these players have got to be faithful. He goes on and he says, traitors never publicly argue with one another because they don't want to draw unnecessary heat, nor inform another traitor that they're gunning for them. Round Table, of course, is a different story when a traitor is taking a shot at another traitor. And he says, I'm enjoying this series. Watched the first episode of US Series 3. That didn't disappoint. Loving the podcast as always. I think Matt's probably right that it's unlike. Do you think that like
Mm.
it's unlikely that traitors would
Yeah.
would be emotionally having a go at one another and getting involved in this stuff?
I certainly think, yeah, it's in my case, 100%, and I think so. Although I don't think you can 100% say that because it does depend. For instance, in the US one, where we know everything is massively dramatic and
Mm,
the emotions are high all the time, I think it could certainly be. It wouldn't surprise me to see it there. But I think what he's saying is generally, yeah, I think he's right, actually. Yeah, thinking about it.
yeah, I think so. We've also got an email from Scott. Hi, Scott. He says, having only watched one series previously, I don't know if this is different or not, but Anna declining the recruitment makes me think the players are either more sanctimonious this year or are savvier to the fact they'll be thrown under the bus. So, like, Anna seemed to recognize I'm
Mm,
going to decline this, but I know it's going to be a really bad idea. And she recognized why she was being recruited. She recognized, oh, it's because they're just going to get rid of me really quickly.
mm,
So Scott
mm,
asks, do you think they, meaning the traitors, do you think the traitors will need to preempt people who will start to attract suspicion more this time? And I asked Scott for a wee bit of a follow-up to clarify. So what he meant was maybe the traitors shouldn't recruit people who have already had lots of suspicion on them and have had votes because that player will know why they're being recruited. So Scott's saying,
mm,
should the traitors recruit people who haven't had a lot of suspicion on them, but the traitors can figure out a way to scapegoat them later in the game? Um, any thoughts
mm.
I guess you had to face
Yeah.
this without giving
Well,
spoilers.
yeah.
How as a
Yeah,
traitor,
exactly.
how
Yeah.
do you pick? Who do you pick to what who your recruit's going to be?
Look, had it been, it depends on the circumstances, but the way I wanted to play it as a traitor and the way I started off, and I won't do any spoilers, is that at the start to recruit someone, I think you recruit somebody to help you.
Hmm.
The scapegoat can be used and is used and has been used, and but I think now people know the game, and Anna, for instance, it's pretty obvious. In that situation, I wouldn't have picked Anna because I think she was probably always going to say no for the reasons she gave.
Hmm.
So you can play it one of two ways. You can go as a scapegoat, or you can actually pick somebody like Dan, maybe, or Leanne in that occasion. That I think would have made a really good traitor and actually been more support. It's hard. And I know when I was doing it, and again, no spoilers, I had a split second to decide. Had I been looking at it and look back now, I think I would have done it differently.
Mm.
But it's really difficult when you're in that nucleus of the game and you've got to make these decisions. It's really difficult.
Yeah. I am going to throw out a prediction that Linda will be banished at some point soon, leaving Mina on her own. And I think next time Mina gets the chance to recruit, she will do just that. I think she'll realize it was a bad idea trying to get someone like Anna. So I think she will recruit someone that she genuinely thinks will be a great traitor with her and that she could go to the end with, like you said, maybe Leanne. I
Leanne,
can
fingers
see that.
crossed, Leanne. I
Yeah.
really want Leanne to be recruited. That would be my wish. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see.
Now, listeners, remember, Jane and I have been trying to deceive one another. We're still trying to deceive one another, perhaps. We may not have finished the game yet. Throughout the podcast, we've been maybe being a bit sneaky to fool one another. Before we finish the game and reveal what we think and what we've lied about, we do have a few important things to let you know about. First of all, Jane, how can we find you online?
So I'm on Instagram at Jane Mass 444. You can find me, and I'm also going to be joining Annabelle and Phil covering the US Traitors Season 3 on Babes on the Brink, which is from next Wednesday, I think. So yeah.
Fab. And I'll put the link to Jane's Instagram in the episode description, and you can find it through the Traidar podcast Instagram as well. As for where you can find us, well, I always say this, but it is really important. If you're listening and you're enjoying it, whatever platform you're using, it'd be great if you could leave a little review or a star rating and just press subscribe. Again, even if you don't use YouTube for the podcast, it would be so helpful if you subscribed on there anyway. It would help other people find the podcast. And you can follow on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Traidar Podcast. And again, the YouTube is the only place that you can watch the podcast now. You can also leave comments on all those places, and you can email me at the Podcast at gmail.com, just like Scott did today, and just like Matt did. And you can leave a voice message. We've had a few on the podcast now. You could go to memo.fm/ the Traidar podcast and leave a wee quick message about a question or something that we've missed in the episode or something that you're desperate to talk about and you've got no one else to share your theories with. And of course, I am running a competition. If you are in the UK or Ireland, I will put your name in a draw to win this brand new copy of the Traitors board game if you send in a voice memo. So it is that time. We have been playing the Traidar Traitor. So, Jane, we've been trying to deceive one another. I
Mhm.
confess that I told you a lie at some point. Did you tell me a lie at some point?
I did, yes.
Okay, I was about to sort of spoil something there. I'm going to go first. Unless you're
Okay.
desperate to guess what I lied about.
No, 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 no. You go
Um,
ahead. No, no.
I wrote down a few options, made some notes. So I thought,
Okay.
uh, you you know, listeners won't know this, of course, but we had a bit of a technical issue because I had to cut the Zoom, and part for a moment I thought maybe Jane planned that because Jane's screen froze and I couldn't see her moving, and I thought maybe Jane did something deliberately to her computer to make it freeze. Um, or there was a moment where I talked about another player from Jane's season, a woman called Jackie, and Jane sort of very flippantly said, "Oh, I messaged Jackie recently." I thought maybe that was like a quick lie thrown in that you hadn't planned in advance. But I'm gonna go for my other thought, and I'm really
Mhm.
worried now that it's something that you've already told me in the past when we did our interview episode, and now I'm going to look like a complete idiot because I've forgotten. I think
Mm.
you lied about applying for the UK traitors and that you didn't do that. Is that your lie?
Oh, yes, you're right. Oh, no. What? No way. Oh,
I
oh,
feel so.
oh, I
But
can't believe you got it right.
I'm generally actually terrible at this game, and I'm usually never get it right.
I know
I
you don't. And I'm really upset because I thought, well, that would be, yeah, I thought that would be quite,
oh,
no, I never did apply for the UK one. So well done.
thank you. I had a sneaky
Uh,
suspicion only because you said it twice and two different. And when you said it
yes,
the second time, I thought that's funny that she deliberately mentioned that second time. Was
you know
that
why? Because,
purposeful?
no, no, because I said it the first time when before we'd started the game. Before you'd actually said. So I thought, I'm going to have to say it again now. So I did think you might get
Ah,
it for that. But yeah, I said it
the
before we'd actually started. You said now the game starts now, and I'd already said it. So I thought, oh, I'm going to say it again now. But anyway, well done. Well done.
how exciting. No, this may be my downfall. I've been so smug.
No,
What do
I
you
don't think
think?
it will be.
What do you think I've lied to you
I,
about, Jane?
I don't know. There's nothing obvious. So I wonder whether it was something either to do with Uncloaked or the Graham Norton show. They were my two things because I haven't seen them. Maybe Tom Hiddleston wasn't on there. It was another person, or something about Uncloaked where that Dan said that I think might have been
Mhm.
incorrect. That's all I could come up with.
Okay. Do you want to
Apart from that,
pick one of those to plump for?
is one of them right,
Could
Matthew?
be, might be, might both be wrong, and I'm just teasing you.
I'm going to go with something Dan said.
Okay. I nearly spoiled it a minute ago because when I guessed your lie, I almost said, I think we told our lie at just about the exact same time, and we did tell our
Oh,
lie at just about the exact same time.
did we?
My lie was about the Graham Norton show, and so you
Wits.
were very, very close. It
Oh,
wasn't about Tom Hiddleston. He was on the couch and he is a fan of the
right.
Traitors. I lied.
But you hadn't
I actually
watched
told
it.
two lies. I said that
Oh,
the
great.
Claudia's announcement was that she was hosting the Graham Norton show for the rest of the season. She's only hosting one episode, so I exaggerated
Oh,
that. And then I said
okay.
the reason she's doing it is because Graham Norton is on a tour of the States, and that's a lie.
Yeah, I wondered that.
He's on a tour of Australia. I still don't know what he's touring, but
Oh,
he's not going to the States.
oh,
So I
I did
changed the
wonder that.
country.
Oh, Okay. I
So
was
you were
close.
very close. You almost rumbled me,
Oh,
to
I
be
was
fair.
close.
So,
Oh, damn
uh,
it. Okay. Next time,
listeners,
next time.
yeah, maybe the people listening caught both of us. Who knows? Sometimes people
Yeah.
send little messages on Instagram saying, "I'm just listening, and I think you lied about this." So
Yeah.
the next episode of The Traidar actually will be all about Traitors US Series 3, episodes 2 and 3 combined. That is on its way within sort of 12 hours. Like it's going to be out very soon. And my regular co-host David is hosting that with a special guest of his own. I'll be back here next week to discuss episode 7 of Traitors UK with another fantastic guest I am really excited to have back on the podcast. Someone who has been here before, and we always have a great time. Jane, thanks so much for joining me on a Sunday morning for you. I really appreciate
Yeah.
you getting up. I
Thank you.
hope it was worth the early rise.
Yeah, oh no, absolutely. I love talking about the traitors. I could do it all day. So yeah, great to speak to you again, Matthew. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of the series.
As am I. Thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for choosing this podcast. Until the next episode, keep us on your Traidar.